Today on Comicstorian, Ben Reilly is becoming a monster of a Spider-Man. This is Comicstorian, where I take your favorite comic books, I break them down into a synopsis, I cut out a lot of the fluff, the jokes, and the extra plot lines. The point of this is so that you know what's happening in comic books, and you can still go buy them to add them to your collection, or you can just see what's going on and get the next issue. All alterations to the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be bringing Spider-Man Beyond to its near conclusion. Spider-Man Beyond is a storyline in which Peter Parker was infected by a form of radiation which put him into the hospital. The Beyond Corporation created their own Spider-Man, known as Ben Reilly, and he's now been taking over as Spider-Man as a superior kind of superhero. At this point in the storyline, we now have discovered that Beyond is beginning to manipulate Ben Reilly. And today we're going to find out what they're doing, what's happening, and how this is affecting Ben Reilly. It's also going to be the return of Peter. So let's get into Amazing Spider-Man issues number 86, 87, 88, and 89. After Ben Reilly's recent fight with Doc Ock, it left his mind wandering, causing him to act out in a much harsher manner than Spider-Man is known for. And as he sits in his psych evaluation, Dr. Kefka says, "Okay, 2 floors lost to fire damage, 3 more to smoke. Our support crew sustained minor injuries during the evacuation. People could have been seriously hurt, Ben." And Ben tells her, "Yeah, but they weren't." And Dr. Kefka asks what is going on with him. He's been lashing out, rushing into situations before even getting briefed as to what's going on. And Ben tells her that he has a lot in his mind. About this place, about the Beyond Company. Meanwhile, 2 floors up, Janine sits at the edge of her bed staring at the dresser, thinking back to what Ben told her. When he handed her his mask to wash, the data drive was in it, and he whispered that they're lying to us. Janine gets up and goes to open the drawer, but then she stops sitting back on the bed. Back downstairs, Dr. Kefka tells Ben that he needs to talk to her, and Ben tells her no, she works for them. And right now he doesn't trust Beyond, not anymore. Dr. Kefka asks if she can tell him a secret. It's that she doesn't trust them either, and that's why she negotiated 100% autonomy as a condition of her employment. It was important that she be able to treat patients as she sees without corporate interference. But elsewhere on another floor, Maxine is watching. Wow, she actually believed we did that. Ben then says that Otto Octavius has broken the encryption on the drive. His dossier was right there. Everything Beyond thought about him. Ben Reilly had a malleable morality, personality less defined, a hunger for meaning which makes him easily manipulated. He's always known that something is wrong with him. Comes down with the territory when... And Ben begins to trail off with Dr. Kefka stating, "You're a clone." Ben stops. "Wait, what? No, I'm not a clone!" And Dr. Kefka stares at him. "I've never told anyone." She tells him that that's not true. He told them about how he was resurrected and killed again and again by the Jackal, after taking on the Spider-Man mantle before bringing others back, others like her. Ben thinks for a moment. I don't remember any of that. And Dr. Kefka tells him because they wanted Spider-Man squeaky clean. They wiped out the memories of him being the Jackal, of him dying over and over and over, of him being a puppet of the Jackal, because they felt that that made him more complicated. They wiped his mind clean. Ben Reilly pauses. "Wait, they took my memories?" And Dr. Kefka tells him that it was at his request. They removed the more problematic adventures from his temporal lobe. But she put an end to it all when she arrived. It was too dangerous. As clones, their life experience are enmeshed in a scaffolding of implanted memories. Pull the wrong string and you risk losing all of the important parts, the basis of a clone's personality. That's why she's going to stitch his mind back together. That's why he has been acting out during his missions. Ben tells her no, it's not. The drive that Otto stole, there was other stuff on it. Documents on hundreds of shell companies. Beyond is almost chaotically diversified, and that chaos is a cover. The superhero game isn't the only one that they're playing. We're all in danger. We've got to protect ourselves. Dr. Kefka asks what is he saying, and just as Ben begins to state that the UFOs weren't, Maxine presses a button stating, "Enough of that." And at that moment, a high-pitched siren goes off in Ben's mind, and the building's automated defense turrets open fire, shooting Ben with dozens of tranq darts. Dr. Kefka yells out that they promised they wouldn't spy, but then Maxine walks in telling the doctors to grab him and bring him to Memo surgery. Dr. Kafka screams that they lied. Don't do this to him again. Back with Janine. Marcus stops by to tell her that they're doing some work with Ben and he won't be back for a bit. But he wanted to tell her so that she stays put. She calls out from the other room that it's not like she can go anywhere, and Marcus tells her, well, we think it's best for you with your history. Janine walks out of the room grabbing Marcus and holding a knife to his neck, stating, because of all the years I spent in prison with other murderers like me? Meanwhile, downstairs, Ben is laid out on a table, hooked up to a machine, the one that will wipe out his memories, and Maxine says that they can start by scrubbing Octavius's little pep talk and move forward from there. Inside of Ben's mind, we begin to see the holes appearing in front of everyone's faces and the data drive fading into nothing. And with this process continuing to work, a doctor tells Maxine that Marcus is asking for security clearance to leave with a guest. He seemed rather adamant. Maxine tells him whatever, it's fine. We still need to... Wait, why are we back here? On the screen, it shows Ben running into Peter, and the doctor says that was a spontaneous jump. But as those memories of Ben running into Peter begin to fade, Maxine yells, "Stop pulling the threads!" But the doctor says that he isn't. This isn't a demolition. His mind is collapsing. Ben Reilly is losing all of his memories. Meanwhile, as an entire bar turns to watch, Black Cat asks what is with all of the stares. Your drinking buddy's not used to having such a glamorous lady in here or something? Captain America says that he's pretty sure they aren't used to seeing a glamorous lady put away so many chicken wings. Black Cat then says, look, he is going to get back out there. Nothing is going to stop him. He's Spider-Man, but he's not ready. If he's not ready when he gets back out there, Spider-Man is going to get himself killed. So we need to make him ready, because I don't want him to die. Cap tells her that he's in. They'll go get him ready. So the next day, Black Cat and Captain America bring Peter to a rooftop telling him, all right, class is in session. We both know that you're dying to get back to it, but you're not going to, not until you pass our test. Peter looks at them. Okay, but it feels a little weird without, the Spider-Man suit. Black Cat tells him, well, you can't have the suit, not until you're ready. Right now, that other guy, he's Spider-Man. So training begins, and Peter begins to wear a paper bag to hide his identity. They go for a few days until they finally get to an exercise to capture Black Cat. But seeing Peter getting winded and hardly being able to stand, she looks at him. Okay, we'll take a breather. She begins to go through her backpack, stating that there should be some water and orange slices in here, and Peter wheezes. I thought you only drank champagne. She tosses him a bottle of water, telling him, yeah, well, Captain America packed the bag. Peter sits down and Black Cat asks, what was that out there? He's got to be better. During this training, he was only showing like 75%. His 75% should be equal to her 100. He has superpowers and she doesn't. Peter laughs, asking if she had powers at one point, and she shrugs. Sure, little bad luck here and there. Big deal. But you're Spider-Man. You can do whatever a spider can. You want to get back out there again? You need to shape up. So with a little pep talk from Black Cat, the next night, Peter and Cap wait for Black Cat to arrive, with Cap stating that he doesn't know why she couldn't just give him the mask. Peter yells through his paper bag, that's what I'm saying, Cap! But as Black Cat appears, she says, hey everyone, brought some friends, Bruno and Doc. They're gonna help with tonight's exercise. This is about working together, and make sure that Cap doesn't bonk you on the head again, Peter. As Black Cat gets into the car, Peter asks, so what are we doing? She tells him that he has to catch the crooks, because they just robbed this place. Here you go. The car speeds off, and after a quick glance at each other, Peter and Cap take off running. Training continues night after night until Peter is finally set off on his own. He tracks down a pair of robbers and begins to take them down, until one punches his mask off and the other grabs him in a headlock. He begins patting the arm, yelling, Uncle, Uncle! And as he's let go, Black Cat and Cap take off their ski masks. Just a minute there, son. We'll run it again when you're ready. But Peter can see their faces. They are disappointed. They're second-guessing themselves. And him, he should have done better. He has to do better. He laughs, catching his breath, stating that he can never give up. He's good. So let's go again. And the training continues. Failure after failure. Disappointment after disappointment. Meanwhile, over at MJ's apartment, she unlocks the door to find somebody already sitting inside in the darkness. And Janine holds up the data drive. We gotta talk, Mary Jane. And back over with Ben Reilly, while Peter Parker is training and Mary Jane is dealing with Janine. Ben's recent memory wipe is becoming more of a memory failure. Maxine and the Beyond Scientist had to re-implant his memories from scratch. Of course, they had to leave out a few key encounters that they were unaware of. As Maxine's day begins, she briefs Ben that during his recovery, Janine had disappeared and was hoping that he might have some idea as to why. Ben says, "I don't know a thing." Later, Maxine is then speaking with Marcus, which unbeknownst to Ben was the one who helped Janine escape. Marcus tells Maxine that she had a knife to his throat, and that he didn't have much choice. He has no idea why Janine was trying to leave the building. But Maxine stops him, stating, "I know why. She has something of ours." Next, she goes to meet with the board, which, given the circumstances, the board's not exactly happy that the drive in question could be potentially wiped with a third of their holdings. And they are demanding that she fix this because she let the Hero Division get away from her. However, Maxine tells them, or she has given them a chance to begin testing. She'll be executing the Halifax Protocol. That was the point of their second division, yes? The board informs her that the division is not hers, not yet. But Maxine says that if she fails, she will assume full responsibility. Once the meeting concludes, a scientist states that the substance was highly metaphysical in structure, and they have to bring in people from across the company to handle this. Maxine asks if it was as advertised. Can they use this to create villains? Another scientist tells her yes. The substance is in fact the sins of Norman Osborn. So 1 hour and 30 minutes later, Maxine stares through the glass at the new creation that she has made, the villain, stating that that is fantastic. A red-clawed hand slams against the window and Maxine places her hand over it, telling her, "Look at you, my queen Goblin. Yes, that sounds good. And they said that we couldn't do villains." So a short while later, after everything is in place, Maxine returns to Marcus's holding cell, telling him that she's sorry to keep him waiting, but today is going to be a good day. Marcus says that he's still not sure if he's allowed to leave. Is he allowed to leave? Maxine sits down, kicking her feet up, telling him that their little jailbird has given them the perfect excuse to execute a product that she has been working on for the past few months. Over at the Daily Bugle, MJ tells Glory Grant that she appreciates them meeting her like this. She'd like to introduce Janine Godby. But as MJ does that, back at Beyond, Ben is sent out on the field with a new villain that just appeared. Though he can feel that something is different, like his memory is off, like he can't remember certain things. Over at the Bugle, MJ and Janine sit in Glory's office, and Janine says that she doesn't think Glory believed her. MJ assures her that she did, but these allegations are big. Glory just needs to run it upstairs. Janine then begins to look through Glory's desk, and MJ asks what is she doing. Janine closes a drawer, stating that she was checking for bugs, just in case. You know, Beyond has a lot of subsidiaries, but MJ notices something getting closer to the window from the outside when suddenly the glass window shatters open. The Goblin Queen begins to laugh, and MJ asks if she's here for her or Janine. The Goblin Queen smiles. "Neither!" And she looks down at the data drive. Janine throws herself at it, yelling that they can't win this time, but the Queen Goblin tells her, "I'm not looking to win. I just want to see your brain!" She takes a swing with her mace, but then feels a tug of webbing pulling it back as Ben says, "I wanted to say something outrageous for my big entrance, but the brain comment really killed the vibe." Queen Goblin swipes at him again, shouting, "You are never funny!" And Ben ducks and then punches her. Come on, it would have been funnier than this. Just then, Queen Goblin's glider splits into two, rocketing towards Ben, with the first narrowly missing, but then the second one slamming him into a desk. Queen Goblin charges at Janine, but before she could grab her, Ben webs up Janine and yanks her out of the way. As Janine is flung back, she drops the drive and Queen Goblin stomps on it. Janine yells, "No! They always win!" And Ben shrugs. "No, not yet." And then he throws the desk that he was thrown into at Queen Goblin. MJ looks into the next room, stating, "Hey, Queen Goblin's getting up." And Janine asks, "What are you going to do?" Ben looks back. The way I see it, this is an our problem. He webs out as Janine asks, what is he saying? She's dangerous. And Ben tells her, "Right, so we better get out of here." As we realize that one of the core memories that was not put back into his mind is that with great power also comes great responsibility. MJ watches as Spider-Man Ben Reilly just leaves, and Queen Goblin begins to laugh. "Don't worry, I'm still here." As the Queen Goblin continues her assault in the Daily Bugle and Ben Reilly seemingly running away from the fight, Peter Parker gets to work at McCarthy Medical Center trying to get back to being the original wall crawler after his run-in with the UFOs. Even though his physical therapy is going well as far as his nurse is concerned, he has been quietly sneaking out throughout the week to train with Black Cat and Captain America to get him back to his former self. And after all of that, he sees on the TV reports of a Goblin attack. Peter yells out, "Goblin? I gotta get out there!" But Black Cat stops him, telling him that he can let someone else handle this one. And Peter looks right at her dead in the eyes. "You know that's not my style, Cat." Black Cat tells him he's not ready, but seeing Peter not backing down, she tells him, "Fine, you think you're ready for this?" She drops one of the web shooters on the table, stating that if he can get it, he can go. But before he could grab that web shooter, she uses the other web shooter to effectively wrap Peter in a cocoon in his bed and leaves him there. Moments later, at the Daily Bugle, rescue crews arrive to try and save all of those that they can while MJ is dangling out of this broken building. Queen Goblin flies up. "Oh look, the not-so-famous Mary Jane Watson! I was just on my way out, but I could always stop to chat with someone like you. A failed actor, a nightclub proprietor, a Stark employee. We have a lot to work through, and there is a new therapeutic option that I've been working on." Queen Goblin jets down, grabbing MJ by the face, asking, "Would you care to see the Goblin gaze? Just be warned, it can be a little intense." As her eyes light up, MJ helplessly stares into them when suddenly a man screams for help that he is slipping. Queen Goblin looks over at the man, stating that admitting his problem is the first step to freedom, and she blasts him, asking who is next. MJ punches the Queen with all the strength that she has. And the Goblin Queen looks back at her angry. "You dare raise a hand to the Queen!" A voice asks, "A hand? How about a foot?" And Black Cat swings in, dropping a kick straight to Queen Goblin's face, throwing her off balance, freeing MJ in the process. Once they get MJ back to solid ground, Black Cat asks what is going on. And MJ explains that she was helping Ben's girlfriend blow the whistle on Beyond, but then this Queen Goblin showed up and destroyed the evidence along with half the building. Ben came to rescue Janine, but then he just left. Black Cat says that doesn't sound like Spider-Man. I'm sure he'll be back. But just then, Black Cat is struck with the spiked mace, and Queen Goblin pulls her up. "I need to try my new gaze on someone, and that someone is you." As Queen Goblin stares into Black Cat's eyes, she begins to see all of the world change and her greatest fears come to life. Everything that she has done in her life is now a failure. She discovers that she is an awful friend, a forgettable lover, and a disappointment as a daughter. Queen Goblin tells her there's only one option to recovery. Yes, the world would be a much better place without you. Just one small step and it'll all be over. And Queen Goblin's glider splits in two as it's hovering over the city, and with Black Cat stuck in her trance, she looks as if she's about to walk off of it. She takes a step and begins to plummet, but popping the tears that are falling off of her face, a web shoots through, grabbing her. She looks up. "Spider-Man?" MJ was worried that he... And MJ yells that isn't Ben. It's Peter! Up on the building, still in his hospital gown, Peter begins to struggle to pull Black Cat up, telling himself, "Just focus. Don't worry about the white knuckle, body shaking, face melting, searing hot pain." But after bringing Black Cat up to the ledge with MJ, Black Cat says that she is sorry for second-guessing his resolve back at the hospital. And Peter tells her, "You don't owe me a thing." But before the three of them could actually relax, there's another explosion as Queen Goblin flies up, and Black Cat warns Peter that she's not like any other goblin. Saving her is one thing, but is he sure that he's ready for this? And Peter suits up. "Cat, that's my secret. I was never ready." Black Cat checks with him, "Are you ready for this?" And Peter tells her, "Don't worry. Remember, I broke out of the webs, didn't I?" But what Black Cat and MJ don't know is Peter did break out of those webs with the help of Janine. Meanwhile, over at Beyond, Maxine Danger yells at her staff that they need to find Ben. Where did Ben Reilly go? Using the GPS in his suit, she declared that she knows that Ben can hear her. They don't want to make Janine a fugitive all over again, do they? Ben reached up, turning the comms off, and Janine asks if they're really gonna lock her up again. Ben tells her not if he can help it. They got bigger problems right now, though. That's beyond themselves. Janine asks, what about the Goblin? Him leaving the Goblin isn't like him. Ben says Beyond will just spin it however they want and paint them to be the bad guys. Probably already have. Burning down Beyond is the only way that they'll ever be free of all of this. She tells him that she's still worried about him. It's like something is missing. Ben takes off his mask. Beyond has been taking my memories from me. There are little gaps here and there, all for Beyond to fill in later. I just need to focus right now. We need to find a way to stop them before they can make everything disappear too. You understand, right? She pauses for a moment, turning away, and then looks back, stating, Staten Island. Ben is curious what's going on, and she explains that Beyond is the one orchestrating the supervillain program, the ones that have been fighting against him all of these months. There is a facility on Staten Island. That's where they made the Queen Goblin, and that's why she was after the drive that Janine took, but it was destroyed before she could blow the whistle. Ben thwips, telling her, well, that is where we're going to go once I find somewhere safe to put you. And Janine tells him to drop her off at McCarthy Medical Center. She has some things to take care of. Now back at the Bugle, Peter is fighting Queen Goblin, trying to come up with his normal quips, but the searing pain makes it hard to concentrate. And he ends up just stating that the Goblin thing has been done to death. Queen Goblin says so many goblins. It must frighten you dearly, but as much as I'd love to stay and chat about it, I'm afraid that our time is up. She begins to rocket off, and with already running low web shooters, Peter fires the last of his webbing right into her glider and gets a yank behind her. As she takes off through a nearby office building, dragging Peter, she asks, are you hanging on to the past? We have a better Spider-Man now. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can all move on. Peter bounces off a desk. Ouch! Right in my imposter syndrome! Queen Goblin continues to weave in and out of the building, slamming Peter into them every chance that she gets, but Peter reaches out, managing to grab a hold of a pipe and whips the glider into a highway sign. She shouts, taking off over the open waters, knowing that Peter doesn't have much of a chance here, but Peter swings himself in the way to throw himself right at the Queen herself. As he lets go, the Queen then grabs him. There, right where I wanted you! But before Peter can even ask, she stares into his eyes to unleash the Goblin's gaze. And just like with Black Cat, the world changes to all of Peter's insecurities and fears about how he'll never be good enough, about how he always loses the ones that he loves, how he lost Harry, Flash, Gwen, his friends and family all telling him that he isn't the man that he thinks he is, that he's irresponsible, that this is his rock bottom. But then a voice tells him, it's kind of her thing though, isn't it? Peter asks, is that Ben? Ben tells him to remember back to the hospital. He was willing to share everything with them, even if it meant not being the better Spider-Man. He expects people to help, but he doesn't really know how to ask for help. At least, that's what his therapist says. Anyway, this is me asking. Peter thinks to himself that Ben does deserve to be Spider-Man and tells him one last thing. Go out there and be amazing. Ben responded during that stay in the hospital, telling him that they both are Spider-Man, and that if he deserves to be Spider-Man, they both can. Never give up. Peter finds himself at the bottom of the water, drowning in his own insecurities, and it's that memory that gives him the strength to push off of it and launch himself straight into the air. He bursts out of the water, delivering a punch that sends Queen Goblin off of her glider. The glider itself says to protect the Queen, picking her up out of the water, but Peter notices that she dropped her crown. A short while later, after being picked up, Black Cat asks, when does the Coast Guard moonlight as Uber? And Peter says that he just had to promise to get the real Spider-Man to give them a recruitment shout-out on Twitter. But while drying off, MJ tells everyone to be quiet for a second. The crown is saying something. Everyone listens, and a message begins to play from Maxine stating that Spider-Man is no longer viable. Initiate backdraft protocol for Staten Island facility. MJ wonders what that means. Peter says that it's for Ben. Ben Reilly is in real trouble. And he isn't 100%, he's more like 50% at this point. MJ tells him that if that's the case, between the two of them, they make one whole Spider-Man, right? Peter tells her that he loves when she talks math. Later, over on Staten Island, Ben swings, landing on a building, but stops for a moment, stating that he almost missed that. He takes off his mask, telling himself to focus. Remember who you are. Remember what they took from you. He looks at his mask, seeing a face, and then Peter says, hello, Earth to Spider-Man. Ben turns, asking, and Peter takes his mask, telling him it's Peter. He takes a moment, but then looks at him. Oh, Peter, look at you. All amazing again. Great for you, buddy. Peter then says that he spoke with Janine. She's worried. They both are. Do you need some help, Ben? Ben says that depends. Can he not get himself nuked this time? Peter looks at him. No promises. They both whip onto the next building and begin swinging, with Peter stating, try and stop me. And Peter tells him that he wouldn't dream of it, bro. And there you have it. The Queen Goblin arc is there, but they're moving right into the finale of Spider-Man Beyond. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us over at Patreon for early access, and we'll be wrapping this up next week.